Just say Om. Atma me shuddhantam. Me shuddhantam. Jyotiraham. Viraja vipapma. Bhuyasagam swaha. Sagam swaha. Antaratma me shuddhantam. Jyotiraham Viraja vipapma Bhuyasagam swaha. Paramatma me shuddhantam. Jyotiraham Viraja vipapma Bhuyasagam swaha. May my physical being be purified. I am the self-effulgent, pure self, free from all desires and all sins. My psychic being, may it be purified. I am the self-effulgent, free from all desires and sins. May my spiritual being be purified, for I am the self-effulgent, free from desires and sins. So, as this verse says, we are the all-pervading, self-effulgent consciousness itself. To experience this, as we discussed that now we will be laying more stress on the applications of what we learned. To realize this, what do we need to do? What should I be doing? That is that will be now the focus of discussion, and in fact it is here that the main difference lies between a spiritual aspirant and a person who is just superficially interested in knowing these things. It is the spiritual aspirant wants to realize this, wants to experience this, and thereby illumine the life. And so, first thing is, we earlier saw that the self is the all-pervading reality, the controller, the governor, the eternal knower that can never be known therefore, but can be realized, can be experienced as self. It cannot be the object of knowledge, say by any science. Sometimes there is in some quarters a feeling that our science is progressing. It is one friend of ours tells, up to this we know by science today. Up to this we know, and maybe tomorrow we will know more, better, and like this, if we continue, after a while we will be able to get this self-knowledge through the progress of this science. No, that is intrinsically not possible, because the physical science always retains this distinction, knower and the known. And since this self cannot be an object of knowledge, it cannot be known by such means, but it can be experienced. It is in that very beautiful epic written by Goswami Tulsidas, Tulsi Ramayana. It is the story of Rama. It was in Sanskrit originally written by Valmiki, but the great medieval saint Tulsidas gave it a very nice devotional fervor and says, I am going to tell you the story of this Lord Rama. Now he sees upon Rama as the self manifested in flesh and blood. And so he says, I am going to tell you the story of Rama. But remember, this story actually impossible to tell. Akatha kahani, in Hindi he says akatha kahani, means it is not easy, or it is impossible to narrate it. And but then why are you making this effort at all if it can never be told? Akatha kahani, then why are you telling? Then he says, well, it cannot be explained as such, but then one can experience it. That na jaya bakhani, it cannot be described in so many words, but then these descriptions can help to realize the God. These descriptions, they say, is like in Sanskrit, while studying Vedanta, you study all these means of knowledge, epistemology of this philosophy. So what is this? One of these ideas is that if somebody asks you, has the moon risen? I say, yes, moon is there, it has risen in the sky, there is moon. Where is it? I am not able to see. And the person points the finger, that now the finger is actually pointing to a branch of the tree. That branch is actually covering the moon. And so there is a halo around that branch from that moon. So the finger, although is pointed to the branch of the tree, what is being indicated is not branch, but the moon that is beyond it. So all the scriptures are like that. They point to something, but that is not the what they want to tell us. Something that cannot be described, that is being pointed out. So this is told earlier. We saw that. Also we saw from this same Brihadaranyaka Upanishad discussion that the self is the connector that makes everything connected. We can converse with each other, we can see each other, and so forth. We can learn from each other. There has to be a connection. How can I see a stone, for example? When I see a stone, my seeing is possible because there is some connection between me and stone. So that connecting link, it is said that is the self. The self is same in all. That is where the source of oneness is. That is the source of love too. The meaning of love is oneness. And that is the, how do we see that people love each other? There is a feeling of oneness. An example I like to give many times is that a child, which is your house, he points to a house. This is my home, this is my house. Now the house actually doesn't belong to that child, belonging to its parents, you say. But then because of the love, whatever belongs to parents belongs to me too, you see. So it is like that feeling of oneness gets established through love. And so that where is that really love? It is now, that is the discussion that we are going to now. That why? Because if you love something, you will certainly make efforts to get it. It is, see, if you love something, how much efforts people do to get it. I remember, and I tell about it many times, that year also the winter was quite severe, very bad winter, and there was a football game at that, what is that stadium, Gillette Stadium here. And big New England Patriot game, and there were so many fans here. Now it was told that there will be, parking will be difficult, driving will be difficult, almost impossible to go. The temperatures and when the game is going to be played about night time are going to be much below freezing. And people still flocked, facing all these difficulties. Many had to walk through the snow for a long time. One of them was being interviewed on television that, are you going to go? No doubt at all, I am going to go. That is no question about, I am going to go. Because when there is love, then all difficulties are overcome. I want it. People love ice cream, so they stand in long lines, and that some ice cream shop, it gives free scoops around here, and they have a few outlets. So not only satisfied standing in line at one, after taking a scoop from there, they go and stand before another shop, So it is, because if you love, then all those efforts, they just are nothing, you can. So if we understand that what we love, actually all our love is for the self, then the efforts will be for realization of self. That is what, again I am referring to this Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, a beautiful dialogue between husband and wife. Again sage Yajnavalkya is there. He had 2 wives, and then he decided to give up this worldly life, and so he he wanted to distribute his, whatever his possessions are, between the 2 wives, so that the 2 won't quarrel afterwards. So it is, he assumed that with that they won't quarrel. They could otherwise also keep on quarreling, who knows. But at least he said that, let me do this, that divide the wealth between you 2, so that you don't quarrel. Now one of them took that money. The other said, well, I don't want that. I want to know why you are going away, and then I want that for which you are going away. because that must be more valuable. You have the money, you are giving it up and going for something else. So that something else must be more valuable. So I want a share in that alimony and not this. So she asked the question, and Yajnavalkya said, yes, well, you were always dear to me, now you have become more dear because of this question. Who otherwise asked this question? And then he told, look, the self is the dearest thing. Other things become dear only because of the self. It is the self that is the dearest thing. Other things like you love, say my son, my daughter, my husband, my wife, my community, and so forth. It is my club, whatever, what is the common word in this? My. So when my means what? You have invested some I in it. You have formed your connection with it. You have put some I in it, and because of that it has become sweet. Because of that it has become lovable. And anything doesn't become lovable. When you put I in it, then it becomes lovable. Like you put sugar in something, to the extent you put sugar, that thing becomes sweet to that extent. So to the extent you put I in anything, that becomes lovable. So what is the source of love? I, it is no brainer. I is the source of love. And so if the love is directed towards this self, it is otherwise it is scattered all over. And then loves one thing today, hates that very thing next moment. It is, why so? Because what is seen as the object of love, after a while, that is, because that is not the real source of love, Real source of love is only this self. And therefore, the practical spiritual practice is, Yajnavalkya told that, therefore, this self is to be realized. Self is to be realized, being the source of all love. This is the great statement, Atma va are drashtavyah. This self is to be realized. This must be actually carved on the minds of spiritual aspirant, that the purpose, like what Jim was telling, it is written everywhere, that important statement in that you must love God with all your soul and all your mind and all your might. It is to be written, kept everywhere, so that you remember it all the time. It is in front of you all the time. So Upanishads say the same thing with a different word. They say self. So self is to be realized. That must be remembered, because that is the source of love. Love to any other thing is, like pouring water. You want to put water into a pot, but then you keep the pot upside down and keep on pouring, and nothing, not a drop will go inside, because that it is not a proper receptacle at all. You have to make the opening in the right direction. So, and that is what is called God, and that God or self. Only God can be loved directly. Other things become lovable only through the connection with God. Otherwise, in themselves there is nothing that you can love them for. So, this self is to be realized. As Sri Ramakrishna used to tell all the time. What a great statement, friends. It is sometimes just repeated glibly, but actually that is a very deep statement, that God realization is the goal of life. It is the goal of life. What it means is that I have to go there, that is the goal. When you know that something is the goal of life, you see in a soccer game you have the goal post, means what? The ball is to be directed there in and through all oppositions. You have to take the ball and hit it right through. So that is the meaning of goal. And then your supporters say, hey, goal. So it is, the goal. It is, that is the goal of life. All our actions should be directed towards that. And that is the meaning of goal of life. So Yajnavalkya tells that this self, realizing this self, is the goal of life, because that is the source of all love. So, how should that be done? And he gives the three things to be done for it. That is actually all spiritual practices that we do are included in these three things. And that it is how Shrotavyaha, means you have to keep on hearing it all the time. All the time hear about it. Hear about the self being the goal of life. Don't hear other things. Don't put your mind into other things, because it is waste of time. Only hear about the self. That is the good utilization of time. It is. Otherwise, as that nice bhajan was sung by her, that if you are not taking the name of God, what is the use of this life? You are just wasting it. This Shravana, listening to the name of God all the time, listening to the scriptures all the time. Listening means, they tell what is listening, and not like, you are listening to the discourse, half of the words are just falling off the ears, and whatever half might be finding their way inside. Some meaning comes some a little bit, others is things are discarded, not like that. Listening means the meaning should flash. That is the meaning of listening. Like you hear the word say chair, means the meaning flashes, is it not? What is being said, that thing flashes before you. That is the meaning of hearing. So keep on hearing about this goal of life. Hearing, reading is also a type of hearing. It is that when you read, actually you hear, you see. Only those sound is put into the picture symbols that we call script. So when you read, actually you reconvert that script into sound. So you are reading or hearing or doing something that would make us get this message inside, that is called hearing. Then after hearing, what is to be done? Then manana, means when we hear, our minds are already stuffed with all the desires for the enjoyment of various worldly things. They will resist the incoming of this knowledge, because that will take away their so-called enjoyment. Actually, it is taking away the misery, but in our ignorance, we think that that misery is enjoyment, and so we don't want to give it up. So, that tendency will not let this knowledge seep in, it will try to keep it out. So, manana means contemplation. By contemplating, all this resistance to this knowledge is to be removed by providing proper logic, proper examples of the lives of the saints and so forth, so that now gradually the knowledge will find a way in our psyche. Otherwise already the psyche is full of the other thoughts which oppose this wisdom. Our stupidity has filled the psyche, so it will not let this wisdom go in. So, we have to work on it, make again and again attempts. So, gradually the truth will win if you go on hammering it again and again. So, that is called contemplation. And then it is third thing is called Nidhasana, means it has to be held on to against all odds. The life will have so many difficulties and problems. Sometimes people say, well, if you want to lead spiritual life, I like to, but then so many problems come. As if they come only when you want to lead spiritual life. Life means problems, ask anybody whether they are trying to live spiritual life or non-spiritual life. The problems are going to be there. That is the meaning of life. There is no problem-free life. The very meaning of living means facing so many difficulties, trying to make you the sense of the things and so forth. So, in spite of all difficulties, in spite of various different problems, to hold on to this cardinal feature that I have to realize the goal of life. Suppose you are going somewhere, it's a long journey. Now there may be difficulties, sometimes your car may not function properly. Okay, get it repaired, get it fixed, move again, move ahead. Do not give up this goal, holding on to it against all odds. It requires a lot of patience and perseverance. The patience and perseverance are very necessary qualities for a spiritual aspirant. Otherwise, our resolve that we make in the morning is gone by the afternoon lunch time, you see. It is therefore that has to be held on very strongly. That is called Nidhasana. So, these are the means. Now, these means, of course, they are the principles told, but there are the details of it. The details are described that yes, what it means is that you have to have, as Sri Ramakrishna used to say, that you have to practice discernment in life. Discernment is a very important thing. We practice discernment, no doubt, like if you want to buy something, some grocery. Our Vishwanath buys grocery for Vedanta society here. Wonderful this thing, it keeps things going on here. So, now what does he see? That okay, there the milk is sold at $2 and that other shop is giving for $1.99. So, the discernment, go there, it is selling at 199. So I am saving 1 cent. So it is, it is okay, why waste 1 cent? So it is more than that, I just gave an example. But we make discernment in such things, you see, where I am going to save may not be 1 cent, but say $1 or $100 or $1,000, because for us dollars are important, So our discernment is about these things, that where I can make more money or save more money and so forth. A spiritual aspirant uses this very capability of discernment for discerning between what is permanent and what is impermanent, the characteristics of self and non-self. That which is non-self is impermanent, and that which is self is permanent. We saw this earlier, that self is continuously pervaded in everything. That is the unchanging reality. The names and the forms, they keep on changing. Like the ocean is the permanent reality of all the waves, but the shapes of the waves, they keep on changing all the time. They rise and fall. And so we have to make this discernment an important principle, that what is permanent. Sri Ramakrishna used to tell that, look, remember, husband, wife, children, this, that, house and money and such things, they are impermanent. They come and go. They are not permanent. God alone is permanent. So this discernment is to be done, and because then with that discernment we will be able to give up our attachment to that which is impermanent and turn it towards what is permanent. It is important, once you understand through discernment that something is impermanent, then you will not have attachment for it. Surely our attachment is, you may say, well, I am still attached to so many things, I know that they are impermanent. No, we don't know that they are impermanent. It is known only here. Our one of the students here, she used to come very regularly. We don't see her much these days, but she used to make this nice comment. Swami, whatever you teach, it makes perfect sense here, but does not make sense here. That is, what the gap of spiritual, to be filled through spiritual practice, that we only know that it is impermanent here. When we know actually that something is impermanent, we will never be attached to it. Like you never are attached to your seat in the plane. When you are sitting in the aeroplane, you are assigned a seat. Okay, you will be sitting on 8A. You say 8A, my seat. But then are you attached to it? Never. You are, in fact, you know that for 1 hour, 2 hours, whatever it is, my seat. When the plane is landing, you already start packing your things, you see, and you never shed a tear for leaving that seat, you see. You want to give it up very quickly. It is so. Why so? Because you really know there that it is impermanent. About other things, what you call in life, my children, my spouse, my parents, my house, and so forth, my money, that impermanent idea does not really dawn. Therefore, that discernment has to be continued with more force still. From here it comes to here. We really know that it is impermanent. And then it will solve this question that many ask. So does it mean then we do not do our duty to our family members or others? Do you mean to say that, well, I have a little baby, my little child, I have to take care of, should I not then do it? No, no, do it without attachment, without attachment. Somebody sent me a nice cartoon. It was asked that one young novice Swami was asking the pontiff of the mud there, are the monks allowed to use emails? And the pontiff answers, yes, but without attachment. So it is. So without attachment. So you do the duty without attachment. Don't say that it is mine. Conventionally it is fine, so far as the in that context, when limiting to the context, it is fine. Like in the plane you say, yes, this is my seat. My seat is only with that context, not that you are going to carry it with you afterwards. It is only for that journey, it is yours. So like that, all these things that we call mine are actually ours only in a given context. Is it not, Roshni? So only in a given context, nothing beyond that. And they are not ours. Within that context, yes, this is my child. Only for that context. Like Sri Ramakrishna used to say that even a nanny, she will say, well, this is my child, and takes care of the child, does whatever necessary, in fact better than the parents would do many times, because there is not that attachment, you see. So whatever is necessary will be done by her. So that nanny takes care, says my child, but knows in her heart that it is not her child. So therefore, we should practice this. Sri Ramakrishna said, this is matter of practice, that nothing is mine. Whatever we say mine, what happens, if we call something as mine, it becomes my bondage. That is what it becomes. So therefore, if we at all want to say my something, then only one thing is mine, God. My God. Not the way we say my God, not like it is, but that is really mine. It is always mine. God is my true self. Even if you don't want to believe in God, still God is your reality. You cannot get away from that at all. So this is a matter of constant practice, that yes, God alone is mine. When we read the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, these things are so beautifully told with very practical examples of situations, that yes, those things go deeper in us when we meditate on it. It is nothing belongs to me here. This is a statement of fact, friends. Does anything belong to me here? Even this body doesn't belong to me. Does it listen to us all the time? Most of the times we have to listen to the body, you see. Why say that it belongs to me? It does not belong to me. As one of the Marathi saints used to say, that even all that bacteria and microbes, they stay in the body, they also say this is my body. It is how you get this privilege that it is your body. It is not correct at all. Whenever I say it is my body, I am telling a lie, and therefore it will be wrong, it will create bondage for us. So it is very important spiritual practice, this discernment, viveka, discernment, that what is permanent and what is not permanent. The big mistake in life is to attach permanent value to something that is impermanent. If we assign an impermanent value to impermanent thing, it is very good. One must, like that is my seat, in a context, yeah. Impermanent value to an impermanent thing. If it is, if you assign permanent value, it is my seat, and then as the plane lands, start unscrewing it from the plane, that will be horrific something, you see. It is yours only for a context, that's all. So everything, it is in a context. People, we do not remember this, and therefore when the time comes to give it up, because it is all in the context, when the context changes. Now people shed so many tears. The pangs of separation are terrible. Like Buddha says to his disciple Ananda, it is really such forceful words. He says that, Ananda, do you know, can you tell me whether the tears shed by people when they are separated from their dear ones are more, or the waters of the 7 seas are more? And he says, verily Ananda, the tears shed by people when they have to get separated are more than waters of 7 seas. It is because we have assigned a permanent value to a temporary thing. So, friends, spiritual life means just to see things as they are. Get rid of our fanciful thoughts about them. See them as they are. Isn't it the right thing to do? It is, I quote from Swami Ranganathananji's that book many times, that what the scriptures tell you to give up is only dumbness. That give up your dumbness. Any objection to that? That anybody who is there says, no, I like my dumbness so much, I don't want. Nobody will say that, you see. The dumbness is the only thing that is to be given up. So, and see the things as they are, and like it is impermanent. It doesn't take, I mean, it is not a rocket science to understand whether something is permanent or not permanent. Easily one sees that it is impermanent, and when one sees it impermanent, let us see it as impermanent. Let us not assign a permanent value to it, and that will solve a big problem in our life. Assigning the right values to things. Patanjali, the great psychologist, he says that, he describes in one of his aphorisms this problem, that what happens in our ignorance, we invert the values. That which is impermanent, we assign permanent value to it. That which is really foul and bad, we consider it to be very pure and nice. That which is actually suffering, and we consider it to be source of happiness, and so forth. So assigning the wrong values makes the life like this. So what we need to do is very simple really, that assign the correct value, look at it basically as they say, call a spade a spade. It is, yeah, it is, why call it by some other thing? It is impermanent, that's it. And so do not assign any permanent value to it, and assign permanent, God is permanent, so assign a permanent value to it. Another very nice formula, a very practical formula to implement this is forget two things, remember two things. What is to be not remembered at all, not to be thought about at all? What good you did to somebody else. Forget it, and never think twice about it, because that person would have got it anyway. Whatever is in his fate, he would get it, he or she, whosoever, would get it. You were just like a mailman. Somebody sent you a check, the mailman gave it to you. The mailman doesn't claim credit, hey, I gave you $5,000. No, it is somebody had sent the check. So it is like that, you did not do any good to anybody. You are not capable. Who are you to do good to anybody? It was maybe your privilege that you could be of some service, that's all. Never think of it twice. Otherwise that will keep haunting us. Other thing to forget, never remember that something bad done to you by somebody. That keeps us haunting. That fellow, that it is, and then that fellow might have done something bad to us. By remembering it, we keep on doing it to ourselves a million times. So again there, that fellow was just a mailman. You deserved it. That fellow just brought it to your doorstep maybe. So do not consider that person did such bad thing to you, and then we keep on seething with revenge and hurting ourselves thereby for years. So never remember these two things. This is a very practical thing, friends, to keep the mind calm. Never think of any good thing. Do whatever good we can to anybody, but never think of it. And done, finished. And never think anybody has done some bad turn to you because of which you have to suffer. Do not put blame on anybody. And then what are the two things to remember? This world, this body is impermanent. It is going to die one day. If we remember this death, and it can come any moment, nobody can predict, that how long I am to live. It is, nobody can tell. You see, even the infants die. Some die even in the womb of the mothers. Some die at a very young age. Some live till well past a century. So who knows when I am going to die? You can never predict. But keep yourself ready, because death is certain. That is, it may come today, it may come later, but it is going to go away. Remembering this. And another thing to remember is God is permanent. God is always with us. All our friends may leave us. Anybody, if you do not, do what the other person wants you to do, immediately there the love becomes, the friendship becomes enmity. And Sri Ramakrishna told one of his disciples, Latu Maharaj his name, Swami Adbhutananda, a very important thing to remember. He said, you do 100 good things for a person and do just one something that the person doesn't like. That person whole life he will forget all those 100 good things done. Hold on to that one thing that you didn't do what he wanted you to do. That is human beings. God, it does like that? Oh, okay, okay. So, and God exactly opposite. That you may not do anything for God, even if you do a little bit, God will remember just that, that well, in spite of all this, this man has remembered me once, and that's the great thing. There is no negative marking in God's valuation, you say. So it is, let us remember that God is always with us, always with us. That is always watching us. If God is always watching us, the life will be different, Nobody else can watch everybody all the time. I told you sometimes back, in such meeting, that there was a school program, and then the kids were given all many different goodies to eat, and just to keep them limited, the teacher had put a board where there were cookies that take only one. God is watching. And then the other naughty kid put another board where there were apples. Take as many as you want, God busy watching cookies. So it is. So God's eye is all over. He is inside the apple, inside the cookie also. And therefore is everywhere. You cannot escape God. That is basically the thing. So therefore remember this truth. And these two things to be remembered, two things to be forgotten. These are practical things to be done, friends. This practical side is called yoga. Religion is taught as a matter of intellectual understanding and also as matter of practice. The matter of practice is called yoga. There are beautiful books by Swami Vivekananda that Jnana Yoga. Jnana Yoga means making our intellect an instrument for this journey. Then there is the yoga of devotion. Bhakti Yoga means turning our emotions in that direction. Then there is the Raja Yoga, that is turning all our capabilities of concentration and control in that direction, meditation and so forth. Then there is the Karma Yoga, yoga of action, learning to do every action as a worship. Every action can be and should be done in the spirit of worship. This is a matter of practice, and as we practice, we develop it. Nobody should think that it is impossible. It is possible. One may say it is difficult. Well, it could be difficult, but difficult, what does it mean? It is possible. Difficult means a little more effort needs to be put in, and it is not as difficult as, say, for example, passing the high school exam. You spend how many 12 years and study, so many hours are put into the studies, give up everything else and do your studies, and after 12 hard years, then you pass the high school exam. So this is, try doing this and you can start seeing the results for yourself. If you put in the efforts, I mean, if we keep on repeating only, oh, it is difficult, it is difficult, it is difficult, well, that doesn't make it easy. So it is, if we start putting in efforts, then it gets done. It is many times, you know, that our that IRS accounts, that you have to file the returns and the time is approaching and so forth, and I used to tell, it is such a difficult thing, you know, one gets crazy, and saying this, you know, you postpone it. Right now, by postponing, does it become easier? It does not. It becomes more complicated, in fact. But if you start doing, you see, it gets finished quickly. So it is the question of starting. Once you start, the work is finished. So let us start. Let us start on the right note, on the practical, in a practical way, and we will see the results. The results are, you know, it is for anybody, for you yourself to see. This is a matter of just like science, you know, you do and you get the result. You do and you will start seeing the results right in your life. The very, this thing, you know, that I will see the impermanent as impermanent. The more we learn it, our attachments become less. And what does it mean? Our freedom becomes more, our joy becomes more, our burden becomes less. So many, you know, even by little practice, we will get great results. As the Bhagavad Gita says, Swalpam api asya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. What a great statement. Even a little of this practice will deliver you from great fears in life. So let us hope that we start this practice in right earnest. Let the blessings of the divine be with us all the time, and thank you, friends, again for coming to this retreat.